So Sarah, do we have a slide that addresses the fact that we're going to be recording?
So it's actually prompted on a slide just after the land acknowledgement.
Oh, perfect. Right. Academic Advising and Career Center, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator this evening. I do want to make sure that everyone is aware that the panel is being recorded tonight, not the Q&A at the end, but this sort of more formal first hour or so of the process. And so please do choose your behavior accordingly. If you do not want to be featured, then I encourage you to not take any opportunities to open your mic. At this time, I'd like to turn the metaphorical microphone over to our guests, and I'd like to start with someone who I see is actually an instructor because students have said, hey, you're my teacher. Dr. Ilishek, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sorry, that took a really long time for me to unmute. This is my apologies. It's a long day. My name is Dr. Oizy. I've been a professor in the psychology department since 2011. So I'm a tenured associate professor in clinical psychology, and I'm one of the founding members of the Graduate Department of Psychological Clinical Science, which is a PhD, MA PhD program in clinical psychology that's housed at Scarborough campus. Though it's a tri-campus program, we have faculty from all three campuses. I'm also the program coordinator for the program, so I do all of the student-facing business involving practica, milestones, courses, and I'm also the chair of admissions, and I've been the chair of admissions for the last, this will be my third year. So I'm heavily involved in the admissions process for our department, and I'm happy to answer any kind of questions you have today. Thank you. And I teach psychotherapy, which is why some of my students are here with us in this meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I do want to highlight that Dr. Oizy described herself as a chair, meaning that there is a committee of people who are involved. So that's one of the process type things that we'll get into in a few more minutes. At this point, I'd like to ask Andy Xia to please introduce himself from Oizy.
Thank you, Jing. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Xia. I'm the International Student Recruitment and Success Coordinator at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, which is essentially the Faculty of Education at the University of Toronto. I actually already saw in chat that we have students who are interested in our Oizy programs. Also, a lot of students coming from a psychology background. Just wanted to let people know that at Oizy, we have a department called Applied Psychology and Human Development. And under that department, we have programs that have a heavy focus on psychology. So I'm looking forward to hearing about people's questions, and I'm here to support your application and also to give information where needed. And thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, Andy. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to invite Nora Cadaire from the U of T Faculty of Social Work. And maybe you can teach us how to say the name of your faculty.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nora Cadaire. I'm from Factor in Wantash, Faculty of Social Work. That's a long one. I'm the Student Programs and Outreach Coordinator at the faculty. And I would love to answer all your questions. There are many collaborations, specializations, combined programs, fields of studies with our master's and PhD programs. So I'm excited to be here, and I would love to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Nora. So just so students know, we have about 5 or 6 prepared questions that our panelists are going to cover for us. And Sarah, I'm not sure if we have those on slides or if we're now just kind of going to leave folks' names up. What are we going to do? Should have talked about that.
I don't have questions on slides, so just to leave the names up.
Yeah, that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to throw the questions in the chat box just for everybody's benefit as we go. And my first question, and Nora, since you were the last to introduce yourself, I'm going to ask you to answer this question first. Please give us a sense for what should we consider before deciding to apply for a graduate program in, I've sort of used the broad umbrella human services, in your case specifically social work.
Of course, thank you for choosing me first. It's a very simple, straightforward answer. The applicants need to familiarize themselves with the graduate programs that are offered by the Factor and One-Touch Faculty of Social Work. That includes the field of study that being offered, the length of program, whether it's advanced or 2 years. Those are some of the things that they need to get to know before deciding what to apply for. And there's also a link which I can certainly put in the chat that does assist students to get as much information as possible about the programs that are available, their length, their requirements, and if they are collaboration or combining programs. And I'm just about to copy and paste the link that relates and elaborates to this question.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And I'd like to highlight a little bit more. Nora, stop me if you're going to say more about this, that UTSC actually has a very unique combined program with social work. Is that something that you might talk about a little?
Of course. Of course. I'll mention a little bit about the collaborative specialization and the combined programs that we have. Combined programs with an MSW degree that can be gained from Factor and One-Touch Faculty of Social Work. There is a JD degree, which is a law degree. That's one of the combined. Collaboration wise, there is the addiction study collaboration with Masters of Social Work. Aging, palliative, and supportive care. That's another collaborative program. Community development. There is also contemporary East and Southwest Asian studies. There is also a program called Ethnic Immigration and Pluralism Studies. And there is the Public Health Policy Studies, and that's also another collaborative program. Sexual Diversity Studies, Women and Gender Studies, and Women's Health Studies. All of those are collaborative specializations that can be worked out with one of the MSW programs of ours.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to throw a little bit of information about the especially UTSC combined program in the chat box. The thing I'd really like to highlight there about the collaborative specializations, though, is that to me, one of the coolest things about graduate school is the opportunity to explore things that you're really excited about in significantly more depth than you had the opportunity to in many undergraduate programs. So with that, if I could, I'll turn I'll shift the conversation over to Andy. And maybe Andy, you can tell us a little bit more about what you would say for an Oizy candidate. What should a student really look for before applying to Oizy?
Thank you for the great question. So when it comes to education, I would ask students to think about what type of work would you like to do within the realm of education, because the biggest misconception people have of education is all about teaching. You do an education degree, then you just become a teacher. You stand in front of classrooms and you lecture students who sit in nice, neat rows. So teaching is certainly a big part of education, but that is not the only career outcome you can get with education. You can become a counselor. You can become a career coach. You can become a higher education administrator. For example, myself, I did my Master of Education from Oizy, and I didn't become a teacher. I instead worked at Ryerson, and then I came back to Oizy to work in recruitment. You can work for nonprofit organizations. You can work for government agencies. You can work for companies, right? So education really exists everywhere, not just classrooms, not just schools. And we have 12 different programs that cover different areas of education. So think about what you want to do as your career, and then choose your programs accordingly. Of course, if you do wish to teach, if you want to be in a classroom, we have teacher education programs that can help you get the Ontario teacher's license, but we also have other programs that can take you to other careers. So think about what you wish to do and choose your program accordingly. That's what I would say to applicants.
Thank you so much, Andy. And Dr. Elijah?
So we're really different than the other two speakers because we have one program, one single thing that you can do. So it's really not about finding the right fit. It's really about understanding what our program is and whether that single pathway is a good fit for you. We are a clinical science program. So if you are not interested in rigorous research methodology, it is not the right program for you. And when people graduate from our program, they're clinical psychologists. So that has to be the career path that you're looking for. So that's really important because we get so many applicants who are unclear about that, what a clinical science program is. And one of the most common questions is what's different between you and Oizy, right? Because Oizy also has a counseling and clinical psychology degree as well. And our program, you just want to really make sure that you understand that research is a primary focus for this project.
Thank you. And maybe this would be a good moment to address that question about whether or not a student could do just the Master of Arts in Clinical and Counseling at the program here at Scarborough campus.
No, it is not a terminal master's degree. So that is not the intention of the program. The only way someone would have a terminal master's is if they stopped in the program. So the intention of the program and the funding of the program is you are funded through your PhD years. So you get, so that is the intention of the program, is that you finish with your PhD. We have never had a student stop at master's. All of our students have gone on to PhD.
Exactly, because I don't know why you wouldn't, right? It doesn't make any.
Well, it's not that fun, really. But
exactly. And
really
I mean, if you wanted to do clinical science, I mean, why would you stop, right? Because it's where you get into the really juicy research, you know?
Absolutely. It's really like you really have to have that passion for it. And so far that's been a hit, and all the students then have gone on to PhD, but you have to really make sure it's your fit of like doing this rigorous research training.
Exactly. And do you feel comfortable maybe explaining what do you mean by a terminal master's? Because that might be new language for some of our students in the audience today.
Sure. There's many programs in different universities that offer admission where the intention of the program is to gain a master's. For example, McGill has one in psychiatry, or a master's of counseling, where the whole program is encompassed within usually a 1 to 2 year program and gaining your master's, and that's the goal. Because ours is a joint MA PhD program. So you get a master's technically along the way, but it is not meant to be terminal. You're not meant to end after the master's, you're meant to continue through the PhD.
Thank you. Thank you. Because that's a question that I get a lot from students, not just can I do just the master's in the UTSC program, but also do I have to go on to do a PhD? And of course, do you have to? No, there are good reasons to do so.
Yeah, if you're wanting a terminal master's, the UTSC program is not a good fit for you, for sure.
Thank you. And while I have you on the microphone, maybe we can go on to our next question. What are the most common mistakes students make when completing applications? You said something about in their application not being clear about their reasons for wanting to go on to the Joint MA PhD program. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about some of those common mistakes that you see.
I think the most common mistake is that applicants treat it like an undergrad program where they feel like they're applying to just a generalist kind of clinical psychology program. You are linked to a supervisor upon application. So you have to justify in your application why you should work with a specific research supervisor. If you don't have that link, your application will go no further. So that's the most common mistake, is that you have to, it's all on our website, but you have to link with a supervisor and say, I want to research with this person. I want to be in this lab. And these are the reasons why. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes, because it's really hard for us to advocate to bring in a student if we don't understand where they will fit in with our program. It is not that you just get into the program and decide on research later. You have to make a research connection before you're ever given an offer of admission. I think that's.
Thank you so much. And then I see different schools of thought on different websites. Maybe you can tell us what your department's school of thought is. I see some departments say, yes, identify a researcher, but do not bother them. They are busy people. Just name them, do your homework and just name them. Other departments say, no, you must actually reach out to those faculty supervisors and find out if they're taking students. What's the preference here at Scarborough?
We list on our website every faculty that is taking a student. So you do not actually have to reach out and ask. We actually made it this year, you're only able to select a faculty because you have to put it in your application. It's a drop-down menu, you have to state it or your application won't work. So you can see on the website who is taking a student. You can look at their websites and you can figure out if you're a good fit. I get at least 5 emails a day of students reaching out to me saying, what are you doing? Are you taking a student? Are you getting research? So that's also very common, but it is not required.
That's perfect. And there's a great question in the chat here that I'll address right now. Should a student have an idea on what their research would be when they write their application? I would assume so.
Yeah, they should. They don't have to have it all planned out because you're a student. So you're learning when you get there and it changes. But you likely, for our program, you have to have at least a general topic.
Absolutely. And I'll give you a good hint. What have those professors published lately? Probably a good chance they're still working on a similar topic. I'd like to now bring it back to Andy and Nora. Maybe Andy, I noticed that you're being very active in the chat there. Maybe we can come to you. Our question is, what are the most common mistakes students make when completing applications to Oizy?
Okay, so applying to Oizy, as I mentioned for the first question, we have many different programs, many different types of degrees. So different degrees would require you to do your application differently. For example, we have mostly Master of Teaching, Master of Arts, and Master of Education. Now, Master of Teaching, as I already mentioned, is a teacher education program to become teachers. Now, Master of Arts is a research-focused degree. If you apply to any Master of Arts programs at Oizy, then you have to, well, you don't have to find a supervisor in advance. Technically, you can apply without having talked to, but your chance would be very disadvantaged compared to another applicant who has reached out to a professor who has secured their supervisorship. So it is highly recommended that you contact a potential supervisor if you apply to Master of Arts. Now, Master of Education degree, on the other hand, is a professional degree. So there is no thesis involved. You just do courses. Of course, you have to write essays for each of your courses, but there's no big thesis. So if you apply to Master of Education, then you wouldn't need to find a supervisor. So you really have to take different approaches, depends on what types of degrees you wish to apply for. And also another important piece of advice I would give is that when you apply to Oizy, we have no page limit to your resume. I know that this might be very different from other faculties within U of T, where sometimes they have a page limit to your resume, like 2 pages or 3 pages. But when you apply to Oizy, there is no page limit. So the longest resume I have seen is 8 pages. The applicant just told us all about himself. His all the special rewards he has achieved, all the volunteer experiences, all the work experiences. So applying to Oizy, anything that you wish to share with us, feel free to put it down. You won't be penalized for having a super long resume. Now, I say this because often I get students ask me, hey, Andy, how do I pick and choose what experiences to put on my resume? And I just want to let people know that you don't have to do that. Just put everything on your resume. But for your personal statement, which is another required supporting document, the page limit is 2 pages. I just want to make this very clear, because if you go over 2 pages on your personal statement, that could be a potential problem.
Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate that. Yes, I do want to highlight that the word resume, if a program asks for a resume, that is very different from a CV. Right? Can you speak a little bit, Andy, to the differences between a resume and a CV?
Yeah, I mean, under a regular circumstance, a resume is much shorter than a CV. CV is more for more a academic career. So, but the meaning of the two words is really different. Also depends on what you which department you wish to apply for. At Oizy, we actually use CV and resume kind of interchangeably. So when we say resume at Oizy, when we say resume or when we say CV, it is really the same. But I know that generally speaking, a CV is more comprehensive. It could be many pages long, whereas a resume usually it's 1 page or 2 pages.
Thank you. That's how I would describe it as well. So thank you. Resume also comes from a French word, which means summary. So it means give us the good stuff. So if a program asks for a resume, that really means just give us the good stuff. We don't need the whole life story. Nora, what do you see over at the Factor International School of Social Work in terms of the mistakes that you see students making that you really don't want the group here today to?
Yes, there are unfortunate mistakes that can cause some consequences like delay or incomplete in the submission of the application. The most common ones I and admission normally see is when applicants not review the application instructions, specifically when it's relating to the submission of references or the personal statement or the CV, as we just mentioned. Some applicants, unfortunately, just scan through what's required, and the faculty is very specific on what's expected. So some students don't read carefully or don't review carefully the submissions before they send them out to the admission office, specifically when it comes to references, personal statement, and CVs. Also, some students are not very well aware of what the requirements are, but they apply anyway. It might be wise that if the applicant is not very positive of their knowledge of what's expected, to shoot an email to anyone in the admission office. And I had the email in the chat several times. I can't stress how important it is to be in the picture, like have a full picture, have a full understanding of what is expected. So and our team there, specifically Angela Umbrello, I mentioned her in the chat, she is very knowledgeable, she's very helpful, she's never tired of any kind of questions. She would love to be very useful source of any applicant who is interested in learning more about our programs. So if you're not sure of what to do or how to answer or what to submit or what the requirements are, without making assumptions that might cause delay or incomplete applications, just shoot an email to the admission office with your inquiry, and they are responsive and they would be happy to help.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And there's actually a great question in the chat here for you, Nora, following up on Andy's differentiation between CVs and resumes. Apparently this year, the MSW is asking for a CV. So can you clarify, is anything up to 8 pages acceptable since you're asking for a CV?
There is no specific requirement on how long or how short the CV should be, but it has to be a CV, not a resume. So that's the up-to-date information up until this morning that I have. For further elaboration, again, if that's not a very satisfying answer to the applicants, more information can be found in the link I posted above. And for, again, further information, the email posted can be much more specific in terms of what's required to be on the CV. But in terms of minimum and maximum, nothing that I'm aware of.
All right, that's most appreciated, because there are different expectations for those.
Exactly, but according to what I know from admission office and from what I learned, personal statements, CV, and references, they did not mention anything to do with a resume.
Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing from all three of you is that a student really does need to do their homework to be a really successful applicant here. They really need to understand the program, what the program goals are, who the faculty members are, and really, read the instructions, follow the instructions. Just like, the beginning of an exam where it says, read all the instructions before you start writing. It's the same kind of thing, which follows up on our next question, which is, how is a professional degree, for example, like the MED degrees at Oizy and the MSW program typically down at Factor Wash, how are those different from a research degree, for example, like the one here in clinical psychology? So maybe I can start with you, Nora, since you're still unmiked, and we'll go around.
Of course, sure. Sorry, just to elaborate on the point you were just mentioned before you ran to this question. You did say students have to do their homework. Yes, I agree with that 100%. But again, don't be shy to ask a question. There is no wrong question. Please seek out. We're here to help our students. We have great programs that we want you to choose the right one that matches your goals, matches your objectives. And we want to make sure that when you do it in timely manners, and it should be done in an effective, accurate way. So no delays, because we know when it comes to graduate schools and programs, sometimes the intake, any mistake might cause your intake to go all the way until the following year. So we don't want that to happen. Feel free to ask questions. Never hesitate to seek for help. If one person does not know the answer, at least they would direct you to the person who might be able to help. So that's besides the homework. Please reach out for help if you need to.
Thank you. If I may add to that, do a good read of the website though before you send an email, because an email can take a couple of days, for somebody to get back to you. Whereas if you go digging, maybe if you're lucky to answer, it might actually be there.
Exactly, that's correct. Very detailed information are on the website, and they are updated constantly. I got sometimes where I actually update the website 5-6 times in a day.
Wow.
And there is another team that actually keep adding information and keep putting things up to date. We don't have outdated information on the website because there is a tremendous, amazing team in the Faculty of Social Work where they do their best to answer inquiries as soon as possible. But at the same time, there are a lot of answers on the website. So feel free again to read, to familiarize yourself with the website, and to reach out if you have any questions. Now, as for the professional degree, how is it different from the research degree? This requires a little bit of a prolonged answer. I would love to sit on one-on-one with whoever has that specific a question. However, the programs we offer in the MSW degree programs, which are professional masters, the admission requirements and the application process are very well outlined along with their options on the website. I will put the link right now. And there is also another program that has very specific requirements that are a little different from the 2-year and the advanced MSW program, which is called the ITR, Indigenous Trauma, Masters of Indigenous Trauma program. And I will also put the link for that in the chat.
Thank you so much. Andy, can you continue to expand for us on this difference between professional programs and research programs?
No problem. So I sort of touched upon this already in the previous question, and I will go into more details right now. At Oizy, so yes, we have research and professional master's degree, and they are very different. The admissions requirements can also be very different. Generally speaking, if you apply to Master of Arts, that is all research stream. Now, Master of Arts programs are highly competitive. They have very limited number of spots each year for new students. I believe each program maybe only takes maybe 4 or 5 new students each year. And this is even more competitive if you are an international applicant. Each program maybe only takes 1 or 2 international students each year for research stream, which is a Master of Arts. So it's very competitive. You have to find a supervisor. You really have to demonstrate your excellence in research, in academic work. So if you have published anything, if you have attended conferences, if you have presented, if you have done an independent research project, it really helps with your application because it shows your research capability. And also the admissions requirements in terms of grade is also higher. Usually we're asking for a minimum of B+ in your final year of undergrad. And also at Oizy, research stream master's degree takes longer. Usually takes 2 years if you do it full time, because you have to do your coursework and your thesis. So that is generally what it's like to apply for MA. Now, Master of Education, as I mentioned, is a professional master's degree. So Master of Education, or MEd in short, MEd programs can take in a lot more students each year. Some program can takes in dozens of new students. Other programs can take in a couple of hundred new students. So in terms of competitiveness, it is much easier to get into a Master of Education program. And also with Master of Education, because there's no thesis involved, you don't have to find a supervisor. You just have to show interest. You have to show relevant professional experiences in a relevant field. And also it takes it takes shorter to finish a professional master's because there's no thesis. So it usually takes 1.5 years to finish a Master of Education. I also mentioned the Master of Teaching. So that is teacher education program, but in a way, it is like a professional master's degree because, again, you are not writing a thesis. You don't have to find a supervisor. And also Master of Teaching Master of Teaching is our largest program at Oizy. Every year we take in 400 to 500 new students. As long as you can demonstrate your passion for teaching, you can demonstrate that you will be a good teacher, we welcome you to apply.
Thank you. And just for the sake of ease, I've thrown into the chat box here because Andy, you're in the middle, right? At Oizy, there are programs that are research oriented and there are programs that are very specifically professionally oriented. And one of the biggest differences that I've noticed, and it's not correct 100% of the time, but I've noticed MED programs and also the MSW at the Factor International School. MED and MSW tend to be professionally oriented, meaning they're course-based.
Yes.
And MA or MSc programs, and this extends into life sciences as well, tend to be research-oriented programs. So at this point, maybe I could turn things back over to Dr. Ulijek, and maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the nuances of what it means to be in a program that is very much research-oriented, but still focused on humans.
Absolutely. And I think this came up in the chat and I tried to answer it, but graduating from our program, you are eligible to become a licensed clinical psychologist. So you can do full-time clinical practice, open your own private practice, work in a hospital, work in a school, work in a community clinic, do full-time clinical work. Because you have a PhD at the end of it, you also are eligible to be in academia, be a full-time researcher, be a full-time instructor, things like that. So we actually have quite rigorous clinical training as well as quite rigorous research training. So all our students, in order to get it, our program is accredited by the Canadian Psychological Association. To be accredited to get a clinical psych degree, you have to do a residency in your final year. So that's outside of the program. It's generally in a hospital. So you do get very clear clinical training throughout. We require 3 years of practical placement during the program. And many students do more than that. But overall, you are doing research in every year. You're doing a master's thesis and a PhD doctoral dissertation. So you are getting both significant clinical training and significant research training.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And please don't mute yourself, because I would love you to carry on to our conversation around funding, because that is something also very unique, I would say, to research focused programs versus professional programs. Tell us a little more about funding in your program.
Our students are guaranteed 6 years of funding. So you are guaranteed 2 years of master's funding and 4 years of PhD funding. And what that means is you don't pay any tuition. Your tuition is included in your funding package, and you're paid a stipend, which is meant to provide for your living expenses. And in that funding package includes things like teaching assistantships and ways that you ways that you are working towards your funding, but it is guaranteed in our program. So most students do their residency in their 4th year of PhD, but many also do it in their 5th year of PhD. So to also note, it's very long. So that's also something to keep in mind. If you go extend past that, you're not guaranteed funding for your tuition, fees, and stipend.
Thank you. So I know the situation, Andy, I'm going to come back through you because, of course, you do have some research programs at Oizy and some professional programs. Maybe you can continue the trend with research funding that might be available at Oizy. And is it for masters? Is it for PhD? Who gets that funding? And then maybe you could talk about how do students in professional programs, help cover their costs?
Yes, funding is always a great question because we all like money. Now, at Oizy, if you apply to a full-time Master of Arts program, so full-time research stream program, you get a funding package for your first year. Now, as I mentioned, full-time MA programs are 2 years. Now, for the first year, you get a funding package, and very similar funding package basically covers your tuition, and also you have some money left over where we will pay that to you in the form of an employment. You will be working for a supervisor as a TA or as a GA. The funding package, again, is only for the first year. Going into your second year of your full-time MA, unfortunately, there is no funding package anymore. You have to pay your second year out of your own pocket. But we do have a lot of scholarship opportunities, a lot of bursary opportunities, a lot of on-campus job opportunities for you to take advantage of. So definitely explore different avenues. So that is MA research. Again, this is only for full-time. If you do your MA part-time, then there is no funding package at all. Now, going over to Master of Education and Master of Teaching, unfortunately, there is no funding package, whether you do part-time or full-time, because professional degrees, MEd or MT, it is expected that students will be self-funded. Now, in terms of how you can fund yourself, again, we have scholarships, we have bursaries, we have on-campus job opportunities. For example, the work-study program is a great channel to make some money and also to gain valuable work experience. And also a lot of students get the majority of their funding from OSAP. As long as you are a Ontario domestic student, you can apply for OSAP. Now, when I was in the MEd program, again, I did OSAP. I worked a job through work study. I also worked part-time off campus. I worked for the Toronto Public Library. So I did different things to get funding for my education. But in short, full-time MA, you get a funding package for the first year of your 2 years. For the professional degrees, MEd or MT, there's no funding package. It is 100% self-funded.
So I would like to give props to the work-study program. Graduate students at the University of Toronto, regardless of which campus you're on, are totally eligible to participate in the work-study program. There are also often interesting part-time jobs available at campuses. For example, I was recently a student at Oizy, I will admit. And so there would often be employers coming to Oizy saying, we need tutors or we need these kinds of school supports. And so they're often casual roles or informal roles that, pay a few bucks and give you great experiences for your resume as well. So
exactly,
yes. Opportunities to find part-time jobs at the university and also in the community. I mean, remember, you'll also have your bachelor degree finished. And so employers out there who'll be interested in having you work for them part-time on the weekends and the evenings, just on the basis of what you bring with you in terms of your bachelor degree already. Yeah. So Nora, maybe you can share a little bit more, because it is my understanding that the MS, and please tell me if I'm wrong, it is my understanding that the MSW program is typically classified as a professional degree. Is that right?
That's correct. So since it is a professional program, they're typically unfunded, unfortunately. However, accepted applicants are always encouraged to apply for any funding they may be eligible for. For example, student funding programs through personal loans, government loans like OSAP. However, having said that, the Factor and One-Touch Faculty of Social Work does have a number of internal awards and other sort of financial support. And they're all available also on the website, and there's a specific link for them. And I will go ahead and put it in the chat right now as we speak. There we go. So students are more than welcome to go ahead and apply for those. But in terms of funding, no, it's actually a self-funded programs. And sorry, since I have the mic, I do see there are several questions that already passed. I unfortunately did not get a chance to respond to. Feel free to address them. If I haven't been addressing them, feel free to ask those questions again. And I'm sorry if I'm missing any.
Well, folks are welcome to repeat things, but we are also going to come back to some additional questions in just a couple of minutes. So the good news is we're right on time here, but I would like to throw in a couple of our backup questions. And this is mostly an opinion question, I guess, for our guests. What do you think is most critical? If I can ask you to pick one thing, and I know this is an impossible task, but if I can ask you to prioritize, perhaps, what is most critical for admission at the programs you're talking about today? Of course, this isn't in general, just in your programs. How important is GPA? Where do those references fit in? Where does personal statement come in? Andy, you're laughing. So can I go to you first? I'm sure students ask you this question all the time.
Oh, I knew I should have laughed. But yes, this is a very, very tough question. Tough question to tackle. It's very difficult to just give one answer. But if I had, from my personal experience, both as a student, a former Oizy student, and as a recruitment officer, I would actually say that to apply for Oizy, we really value your experiences. Now, I get question a lot from students, and they always ask me, okay, what is a GPA requirement? What is my, what grade should I get? Oftentimes, they overlook the importance of having experience, especially for programs at Oizy, because we are training for, for future educators. We are training for future community changers. We are training for future teachers, right? And having a good grade is important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will become a good educator. To become a good educator, you actually have to have the passion, you have to have the commitment, you have to have the, the interest. And the best way to show that you have the passion, you have the commitment, you have the interest is to have the experience. Because if you have done something in the field, it really shows that you are interested in this program. So again, I'm not trying to downplay the importance of having a good GPA. If you have a 4.0 GPA, perfect, that's even better. But having enough experiences, and when we say experiences, we don't just mean paid work. It could be unpaid volunteer, it could be unpaid internship, it could even be on-campus extracurricular activities. You are involved in a student group, you are involved in a mentorship program, all of that counts as experience. The more you have, the better. But of course, at the end of the day, it all depends on what types of program. Again, going back to the difference between MA, research stream, and professional degrees. For professional masters, MT or MEd, yeah, experiences are just as important as your grade. But if you apply to our research stream degrees, MA, then grade is oftentimes very important, more important factor, because again, research stream degree MA is more for people who want to become, who want to work in academia, and you have to demonstrate that you are academically capable. So you have to have a good grade. So depends on what program, but experiences very important.
Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate you taking a stance on that very difficult question. Nora, I see you've unmuted yourself. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Prioritize for us.
So if we're talking about the most critical, what is the most critical thing for admission? I would say the admission committee at the Faculty of Social Work, they take a holistic approach. So they look at all aspects of the applications because they all are important. So the criteria of the admission is literally based on academic standing, based on work and volunteer experience in human services specifically. And also the responses to the personal statement makes a difference. So those are two things that I can say they are critical. Also to keep in mind the strength of the references. So the overall strength of the references does make a difference too.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Dr. Ulyshik, you get the last word on this one. Are you able to prioritize it all?
Yeah, sorry, my computer died and that's why I ran away, but I'm back now.
Glad you came back.
What's happening? Why didn't it warn me? We require a minimum of 3.7 GPA in the last 2 years of study. It's an admission requirement. So if you don't have that, you shouldn't apply. You have to meet that. Like Andy's saying, the research stream are often very competitive. So for example, as you can see on our website, last year we had over 400 applicants and we made 4 offers. That's it. So we tend to admit less than 2 to 3% of students. So GPA is one thing that we do look at. But again, echoing what Andy said, we look at experience as a really primary aspect of admissions. So have you been a research assistant? Have you volunteered in clinical settings so you would be okay around people with disorders? Have you done speaking engagements? How are you functioning in your community? Things like that. So we do look at heavily at experience as well. And it's very good if you have published a paper or you've done a conference presentation.
Thank you. So I hope everyone noticed that we got a slightly different answer, or a very significantly different answer from each of our colleagues, which goes back to the first thing we talked about, which was doing your homework so that you really understand what kind of program it is and what you're going to bring to it, and also what you're going to get out of it on the far side of it. So at this point, actually, I would like to ask if I could trouble Dr. Ulyshik, because there seems to be some confusion in the chat. And this is a great, you and I have been trying to clarify, maybe we can capture it on the video here, about what are the differences, in your opinion, in the careers between a licensed psychologist, licensed clinical psychologist, and let's assume this is someone who chooses to pursue the licensing path in order to, for example, work in a hospital or open their own practice and so on, versus a psychotherapist.
So unfortunately, I don't want to speak too much to it because our program doesn't train, our program trains psychologists. So I can speak to where do psychologists generally work, or psych associates, which are having MAs in psychology. But for people getting alternative types of degrees and wanting to go into psychotherapy, there are opportunities for that. But oftentimes, if you want to work in a hospital setting, you're required to be a regulated health professional, which means you have to go through licensure or registration, it's called in Ontario. And you can have an MA, you can have a PhD, you can have a PsyD, you can have an MD, but you have to go through that licensing body. And I think I saw, Jen, you put it in the chat that these are regulated terms. They are legally protected. You can't go and say you're a psychologist. You can't say you're a medical doctor. You have to be licensed in order to do that, or there's actual legal sanctions related to that. Psychotherapists, you don't. For that reason, the ability, for example, to be reimbursed through healthcare costs, to be hired in certain places, is going to be much more limited for a psychotherapist versus a psych associate or a psychologist.
Absolutely. And I wonder if since I still have you here unmuted, Have you spoken with any of your students maybe about any of the factors besides wanting to do research about why they chose the MA PhD path versus a terminal MA program? I don't suppose there are any stories you could share. If not, that's okay.
I think the students that we see in our program are ones that were really, really captivated doing research experiences as undergraduates. So they're the ones who did the undergrad thesis projects, volunteered in labs, were really interested in the science behind psychopathology and behind psychotherapy, not only, but in addition to wanting to help people and connect with people and to make people better. So it's this really unique combination of wanting to be in a health professional, but also just really needing that science piece in their lives. You know, there are purely experimental psychology programs where you do full research and no clinical work at all, and that's not our program. So I think these are the students who knew that they really wanted to keep up that level of scientific inquiry throughout school. Though we do have many students, once they graduate, do full clinical careers and don't pursue research after graduation.
That's okay. That's what they want to do. I guess for the sake of the video, I'll repeat what I said in the chat, which is highly oversimplified. And I do encourage all students to do their digging into this. But the biggest difference to me anyway, as someone who is a counselor by training and working on it, I should be clear, working on my psychotherapist license as well, is that psychotherapists are licensed, if they're licensed, and you need to be licensed because psychotherapy is a protected act in Ontario now, are licensed to provide that act and not the act of diagnosis. Psychologists, MDs, psych associates, they under their license, they can learn and are eligible to perform the act of diagnosis and the act of psychotherapy, both. So in a nutshell, if I may, that's the biggest difference. And again, if you're interested in the science behind psychopathology, then you know, that's the kind of thing that you might want to do. Share a personal story. I wasn't interested in that science, so I went to psychotherapy because it wasn't.
And I think that's the vast majority of people. I think that's what really captivates most of us, is like, we want to do clinical work. That was true for me as well. And then there's some people who say, and this other thing too, and that's, our program is a good fit for those people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for that. So I have hogged some of the time so that we get to hammer out these things, just because it was so common in the chat here. So at this point, what we'd like to do is have our guests get ready to go into the breakout rooms. So I just want to confirm, Sarah and Florence, are those breakout rooms ready to go?
You're all set, Jen.
Fantastic. So in the chat, we do have encouragement. If you cannot stay, there is an opportunity to connect with representatives from these programs and other programs through the Acadiate platform that you have already received contact information about. So please do check that out. But if you can stay for another 30 minutes, you now have the opportunity to ask some specific questions directly of our guests here today. At the end of about 25 minutes-ish, you'll be pulled back here so we can do one last little thank you if you're able to stay. And you should be able to choose your own breakout room. So can we